Start now? Okay. Call the planning commission meeting of April the 12th, 2022 to order. Commissioner Sanchez will give the pledge of allegiance and I will give the invocation. Salute. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Bow with me, please. Dear Lord, we thank you for another wonderful day. And we're so blessed to live in a community where we can have meetings and discuss our issues. We ask that you be with us tonight where we make decisions that they will be pleasing to you. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Okay, roll call, please. Here. 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 Okay. Next is the approval of the agenda. Somebody
Make a motion, we approve the agenda. Second.
Alder.
Aye. Yes. Aye.
Aye. And the minutes of the previous meeting, is everybody read the minutes, and can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Second. Aye. Yes. Aye.
Aye. Next is the public comment period. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wanting to address the commission only on matters not listed on this agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes unless additional time is needed for translation. Please state your name and address for the record before making your presentation. Anybody have any public comments? Seeing nothing, I'll close the public hearing. And we'll turn it over to Susan for first item on the agenda.
Okay. So get the PowerPoint up. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Conditional use permit 22-124 is a request to allow the permanent installation of a modular office within 1,500 feet of an arterial roadway on an industrially zoned parcel. The property is located on the west side of Santa Fe Way, north of Bishop Acres. And the owner operates his masonry contracting business from the property and uses the western portion of the property for outdoor storage of the materials associated with the business. The modular office would provide additional office space for his business. Prior to 2012, the zoning ordinance only allowed modular offices to be installed as temporary uses. And depending on the purpose of the installation, the units were allowed for the duration of a construction project or for a maximum period of 5 years if they were being used for some other purpose through a temporary use permit that requires planning commission approval. In 2012, the zoning ordinance was changed to allow permanent installations in the industrial zone with the provision that the unit be located 1,500 feet away from road designated as arterials. The wonderful industrial park was specifically excluded from the setback requirement since it was determined that the elevated railroad tracks would sufficiently screen the view of the units from Santa Fe Way, and any units installed within the park would be adequately screened from the other arterial roads in the area by either fencing, landscaping, or the larger buildings that were being constructed. Although the project site meets the requirement for industrial zoning, it can't satisfy the 1,500-foot setback requirement since the property is less than 1,500 feet deep. So if we can see the site plan, the next one. Okay, so in an effort to make the unit less visible from the street, you'll see on the site plan where it's proposed to be located behind a 7-foot high masonry wall. The area that shows parking about the middle of the picture, there's a paved parking area shown in front of the building. That's where the proposed unit is to go. And that's a 7-foot masonry wall that wraps around the south side of the property and separates it from the residences that are there at the southeast corner. It's also set back from that east-west portion of the wall about 20 feet. So it's kind of pushed back behind the fence and farther away from the open area that's in front of it. And then there's a condition that requires that there be landscaping installed in front of the building. There's a small planter in front of it that could accommodate some landscaping that would help also screen it from view from the street. Staff believes that the proposed installation location behind the block wall with the addition of landscape in front of the building will adequately screen it from Santa Fe Way and will meet the intent of the 1,500-foot setback from the roadway, since that was the intent, was that it wouldn't be seen. Approval of the use permit will remedy an existing zoning violation that was created with the structure being placed on the property without land use approval, and will provide additional office space for the owner's business. And staff is recommending approval of the project. Conduct a public hearing, find the project is exempt from CEQA, and adopt the resolution adopting the findings and approving the conditions of approval.
Are there any questions of commissioners before we open up the public hearing?
Is there something there now
The units on the property has been since 2018.
in that spot?
Not in that spot. It's actually out where it's actually visible at this point.
It's still
And
on
it's
wheels,
turned with
right?
the broad side again, facing the street. This turns it with the short side going north
Yeah.
to reduce the bulk.
Visible. Oh,
Yeah, the visible bulk of it.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of the project? Yes, sir. Could you step forward and give your name and address, please? Yes.
My name is Juan Hernandez from 3801 Santa Fe Way. Hi, I just wonder, I have a question regarding, I know the permits require only 5 years to have the trailer, right? What happened after that?
No, this permit is requesting permanent installation.
Permanent. Okay.
Yeah. Normally, you'd only be allowed to have it for 5 years, but your request was to have it installed permanently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my question. If I can have it longer.
Yeah.
'Cause
5-year installation, you have to come back once a year to get it renewed. And then after, on the 5th year, the ordinance requires that you would provide a permanent solution, either installing, taking it off and then building a new building to take its place, a permanent building, or completely removing it from the site.
Because I would like something like permanent, so I don't have to, because I spend a lot of money in the trailer. I pay like $30,000,
Yeah, so
and
the,
that's why I would like, I know, I understand.
what the project for tonight is to allow you to install it as a permanent
Permanent.
installation.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's all.
That's all. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Having no other questions from the public, we will close the public hearing and ask the commissioners again if they have any concerns or questions.
Is there anybody out there who wants to speak against it?
No. You see anybody?
So where it's currently at, it's gonna move farther.
Yes.
Okay, because I drove by there. It's kind of hard to see unless you're looking for it specifically.
You see it southbound more than
Yeah.
you see it northbound.
Yeah.
And I think tucking it behind the block wall will make it harder to see even from the northbound side. Because you'll be looking at the short end with the window in it.
Yeah,
be
And-
less obtrusive.
and there's been improvements already made as far as the block wall and the building he has out on the property right
Yeah.
now. So that's,
Yeah, and this building only has 2 offices in it. They'll have to use the bathrooms that are in the other building.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit number 22-124 as read.
Close the public
Close the public hearing. and then-
He did.
I did already.
I interrupted him. I'll vouch for him on that one.
I'll make a second then.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, been approved.
So in about a week, you'll get a letter. You need to sign the conditions of approval and send those back to us or bring them by. And then I'll let Dennis know that you've met that requirement and you can move forward with your building permit. You're welcome.
Okay, next item on the agenda, conditional use permit number 22-125.
This is a request for approval of a 10-unit multifamily residential development located at 295 East Laredo Highway. Approval of the use permit would serve two purposes. One, to bring the existing multifamily use consistent with the zoning ordinance, and two, to allow the addition of one additional unit on the property. Can we go to the next slide? There we go. The project's currently developed with a two-story building that contains 8 one-bedroom apartments and a smaller one-story building at the back of the property that has a single unit in it. The applicant's requesting approval of a conditional use permit for 10 units and is proposing to split the rear unit in the back into 2 one-bedroom apartments. Off-street parking is provided by the 12 spaces that are shown in green on this vicinity map. Those were approved by the Planning Commission in 1995 as a conditional use permit 95-7. And there's 12 parking spaces within that enclosed area. The development, excuse me, let's switch to the site plan. Development's currently an existing non-conforming use. And according to the Kern County Assessor's records, the building was constructed in 1940, which preceded the adoption of zoning in the city of Shafter. First zoning ordinance was adopted in 1946. The multifamily use conformed to the zoning until 1989, when a new zoning ordinance was adopted that didn't permit residential uses at all in the commercial zones. And that site has always been zoned commercial ever since the original zoning was adopted. Under the current zoning ordinance, the use is allowed again with the approval of a use permit. As a non-conforming use, the owner is not allowed to expand the use and would be prohibited from reconstructing the existing building should more than 50% of the building be destroyed by damage, by fire, or other form of, as the ordinance puts it, an act of God. By obtaining a conditional use permit, the owner would be allowed to add the additional unit and, more importantly, be able to repair damage if the building were to be damaged more than 50%. Otherwise, if there's more than 50% damage, then the building has to be removed. And then it can be reestablished by going through the CUP process and getting approval to have it rebuilt. Off-street parking for the development doesn't meet current standards. The existing 9 units would require 15 off-street parking spaces, with 13 of them being covered. With the addition of 1 more unit, you'd need 17 spaces, with 15 of them being covered. Unfortunately, there's not any room to add additional parking spaces to the area that they have available. I checked with the building official, and he does not recall in all his time here ever receiving a complaint from surrounding residences or businesses about overflow parking from the apartment. So he didn't feel that the fewer parking spaces was going to be an issue. We've never had any problems with that in the past. The facility is also located, within walking distance of the downtown commercial area. It's also located well within walking distance of the the regional transit bus that's out here on the corner of Pacific and Central Valley Highway. And actually, the city is in the process of relocating the transit stop to Stringham Park. So the transit station would be right across the street once that project gets done. Recommended conditions require that the masonry wall around the parking area be painted a consistent neutral color. And there's a condition that requires it to be maintained in a clean and graffiti-free state in the future. And staff believes it's really important that this project be approved because we have a very limited stock of affordable apartments in town. And once the facility is renovated and brought up to code and the new owner has invested a lot of money just buying the building and he's in the process of renovating the two-story building already. That by eliminating the non-conforming use status, it will give him some assurance that his investment, he can continue to maintain and care for his investment without worrying about additional damage that could happen. And that adding one more unit to the existing situation really wouldn't be a significant change in the status quo. And that would make it worthwhile for him. Recommending that it be approved.
Any of the commissioners have questions, staff?
How much the building was damaged in that fire?
Minimal.
Okay.
The fire was set at the base of the stairwell. I asked Dennis, fire was set at the base of the stairs. It went up and it damaged the rafters, but it didn't do any damage in the rest of the building.
Okay.
So he was kind of surprised at how little damage it actually encountered.
The current zoning ordinance, a conditional use permit is required. What, has there been one on there already?
No. So it was established before a CUP was required, then the zoning changed and disallowed it. Now it's allowed again, but with the use permit.
And then you said the new owner has it recently sold.
Yes,
Okay.
it was sold, I believe he closed on it in December of
Okay.
last year. Yes, it's a gentleman out of Southern California.
And the extra unit's not gonna cause a parking problem?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm somebody that's gonna rent a one-bedroom apartment may or may not even have a car. So,
Good point.
and you're within walking distance of Rite Aid and
Yeah, everything, yeah.
the transit stop and
Yeah.
stuff. So it really is a situation where it's in an ideal location just to be a walkable apartment. So some, kid that just graduated from high school and wants to move out of the house has someplace. One of the conditions requires that there be an on-site manager. He hasn't objected to that, so I'm assuming he's planning on providing one, because that's one of the requirements.
I'd see a lot of prices.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, open the public hearing. Seeing nobody here to speak either for or against the project, I'll close the public hearing. And again, ask if there's anyone that has any more questions.
So does this fall under the new California rule that says you can build a separate place in your backyard? There's,
No, ADU, well.
Yeah.
ADUs,
does this fall in any category of that?
I didn't look at, I'm not super familiar with the multifamily provisions of that, but multifamily is one of the things that you can provide additional dwelling units for.
It seems like if we said no to splitting the apartment in the back in half, that we'd be going against
Right.
the spirit that was there in the
Yes.
law.
There's the potential that if the CUP was denied, that the state could question that.
Gotcha.
Don't know that we're on the radar, but
We don't want to be.
we don't want to be.
Any other questions? If not, somebody care to make a motion?
A motion to adopt the resolution 22-397, a resolution of planning commission. of the City of Shafter approving conditional use permit number 22-125. to permit a 10-unit multifamily development in the general commercial district at 295 East Lerner Highway, Shafter, adopting the above findings and approving the conditions of approval proposed in Exhibit C of the resolution.
Second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Rivera,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye. Okay, next on the agenda. is Commissioner reports. Anybody have any commissioner reports?
I attended the planning commission and commissioner academy.
Oh, okay.
Last month in San Ramon. Pretty interesting.
Good.
Cities have some challenges facing them. Let me tell you, everybody had something to talk about. Yes, it's just, I'd be surprised. I was surprised to see it's like, for once, I'm happy to live in Shafter and
Yeah.
not have the issues that these cities
Yes.
have. I mean, there's just some things out there that are happening.
Every time I went, I always came back, telling staff, wow, we got made.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's good. ADU was a big issue.
Yeah.
That's huge right now. I think there's probably some pending lawsuits already from some cities or counties, I think I heard, or something like that.
Yes, there are jurisdictions that have tried, I know Pasadena is the most recent one in the news where they tried to identify a good portion of the city as a historic district and get themselves out of it. One other city up in the Bay Area designated their entire community as mountain lion habitat.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things.
We're getting more requests. Some are ADUs with new construction up in the Willow development. We've had at least one or two up there where they're building a second unit. And then we get the occasional garage conversion. I know we had one built in Brookside. And then technically the next gen units in Gossamer Grove are junior ADUs.
Or what?
Junior ADUs, because they have an efficiency kitchen and are under the same roof as the primary house. So we're gonna claim them as ADUs and affordable units for our housing element update.
Thank you, Lenore.
Yeah, so, and about one out of every 3 or 4 units they build up there is a next gen unit. They're building a lot of those.
And that just doesn't have an oven, right? It's
No,
like
they
a
have-
sink and a
They have
bathroom and a
like a
bedroom.
sink and a space for a refrigerator, and then you can do a hot plate or a
Microwave.
microwave or a convection oven or something like that that uses 120. And some of them have doors to the outside, some of them, one of the houses, the entrance door is actually inside the house. You have a common entryway.
That's different from the mother-in-law units they have out there, right?
No, that the new term for mother-in-law unit is ADU. But there's an ADU that has a full kitchen.
Yeah, that's the one, they got it out there, some of them, I thought.
No, they don't have full kitchens.
None of them?
They all have efficiency kitchens. A junior ADU by state law doesn't necessarily have to have its own bathroom. You have to have a kitchen, you have to have at least an efficiency kitchen, but you don't have to have your own bathroom. And then there's an ADU and a junior ADU. And a junior ADU has to be under the same roof line, less 500 square feet or less, and have an efficiency kitchen. Minimum.
Okay, so we have a bonus room of the staircase in our house, okay? That was used for recreational purposes for kids. Okay. We had a sink up there and a cabinet built that would fit a refrigerator, small refrigerator, but we never did that. Okay, so technically I could put that refrigerator in there, put a hot plate on the sink next to the water sink. And we call that an ADU.
Call it a junior ADU.
Junior ADU. Now, if I brought a staircase up, my wife got curious with me when I mentioned this one day. We could bring a staircase up to the backyard and it could have its own entrance, exit, separate from the house.
I'm not sure that you could do that because you're not allowed. I think it's an ADU that you can expand by 150 square feet outside of what the existing footprint is.
Okay.
But I think that's a full ADU.
Well, this is in the footprint of the house now.
Right, but a stairwell would be
Oh, okay.
that 150 square feet.
Added on to that, yeah.
And I'm not sure that as a junior ADU, you're allowed to do that. You'd have to have a full kitchen and a bathroom upstairs. And then you could call it an ADU. And you could add the 150
But
square
it
feet,
takes a full kitchen.
but you
down.
have to have a full kitchen.
I might be moving up there someday.
Well, I have had somebody that wants to convert his garage into an apartment. He wants to build a 2-car garage to replace the one that he's converting, which is not a requirement. But he wants and rent the house out and he wants to live in the garage
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah.
Well, when I converted my 1-car garage on Olive Street to a family room, the requirement was at that time I had to have
Right.
I had to have parking space in the back.
Okay, the zoning ordinance current requirements is that if you convert your garage into additional living space, which is what your den
Right.
is, you have to replace your 2-car garage.
Yeah.
If you convert your garage to an ADU or a junior ADU, well, a 1-car garage would meet the requirements of being 500 square feet or less. A 2-car garage may or may not, because they're actually a little bit bigger than that. So converting your 2-car garage into an ADU, state law prohibits us from requiring additional off-street parking. So you're adding people and not requiring parking, but converting your garage to living space for the existing people that live in that house, you're required to replace your garage.
Well, see, they didn't make me replace the garage. They just made me put a hard surface off the alley where I could park a car on.
Well, the current zoning ordinance requires 2 off-street parking spaces within a garage.
What year was that?
In the 68.
Okay,
So
'cause-
prior to 1996, so the 96 zoning ordinance changed it to 2 parking spaces within a garage.
Because I did the same thing in 86 or 87. And I built a garage on the back.
And they didn't make me
But
build
I
a
had
garage.
room for it and I wanted to, but it was like, yeah, you are going to. So, huh.
All I did was make frame out of 2x6s and filled it with gravel. And that satisfied me. But I eventually took the gravel out and built a 2-car garage a couple years later.
So yeah, it's always a challenge to try to explain to people. I have to ask them what they want to convert their garage into to be able to tell them what they can do now, because
I was
state regulations are so,
amazed. I just sold that house over on Mark Street and it has a 3-car garage. And I thought, these people are gonna convert that to an apartment or something. And I was talking to them, oh, they don't even plan on using the garage. So they was renting me a space in the garage because they're not even using it, just parked it.
until they get their catalytic converter stolen a few times, then they'll start parking in their garage.
They got several cars in that house and they're not using it. I don't understand, but it's their thing.
So you had a good time.
Yeah.
That's
oh, yeah,
good.
Everything I recommend. I mean, you know, we haven't gone, there's a lot of information. A lot of, you hear a lot of different things that go on and that's happening throughout the state. A lot of things
It's
that's
everything we want to go.
on,
here. Yeah.
it's, they have, sometimes it's just one time, so you gotta pick and choose what class or what seminar you
Yeah.
attend.
Yeah.
Just kind of prioritize, so did the sequel to kind of get a better.
You know, I do what those letters mean.
Got the full manual, so we have that now. So yeah, it's pretty long, so yeah, things like that, but it was good. Yeah, thanks for allowing me. Very informational.
I've been to 3. You've been.
Yeah, I've been to several of
Yeah,
them.
they're- Every time it's like, wow.
Yeah.
The housing crisis.
Used to see the last one where we saw the commissioners arguing with their planners. Remember that? Morro Bay. It was terrible.
Monterey.
No,
We were
but
in
that-
Monterey, but it was
Oh,
Morro
No,
Bay.
but they
that
were
was
talking
part of
about
it.
Morro
Yeah.
Bay.
Yeah.
Remember that planner? I thought, man, I bet he doesn't have a job when he gets back. He was really bad mouthing the
I
planner.
don't think I went to that session with you.
Oh,
guys.
man.
I wasn't that one, but I was the first time I ever went to one. There was a planning commissioner seat next to me from some city up north. He raised his hand, asked a question. The guy goes, what? He goes, what do you do if you don't trust your staff?
Yeah.
I'm like, don't trust your staff.
Yeah.
The guy goes, yeah, when they do an environmental impact report, I don't believe it. It's a bunch of garbage. I don't live there.
And the staff was there.
I think there was one city that they said they got rid of their planning commission. They were having so many issues. And I was like, see, that's the kind of stuff that you just like, all right, I guess.
I know San Luis has a lot of trouble with theirs.
Oh,
In fact, I know a guy, they threw him off the planning commission
that'd be a
because
full-time job.
yes, and he didn't agree with nothing with what the planners wanted to do, I guess. I guess whatever, they removed him from his job as planning commissioner.
So it's good to be in Chandler.
Hey, we try.
Okay.
It's good to be here.
You get a taste of it, but not all the bad stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Meeting adjourned.